Yay, we're live. Okay, let's make sure we can hear each other.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yay, I can finally. Okay, sorry guys, we were having major technology issues. Well, I attribute it to me because this is my first time using StreamYard, so I'm gonna say it's my fault. Anyway, how are you doing today, Roberta?
I'm doing great. Thanks so
Good.
much for having me.
I'm so excited. I, I just have to tell you, I think I started following you maybe 6 months ago on YouTube. Um, and I, oh, I think I might have started with Karen Reed, your Karen Reed playlist. And then I jumped around to, the Adelsons and Amanda Knox. And I just got hooked on your Amanda Knox playlist because I felt it was so relatable for you to say, I fell for this. I fell for her and what she's saying. And I thought she was innocent and attributing that to the media and her PR campaign. And I just, that was so relatable to me. And I was so glad that I found your channel because people, I know you feel the same way about this, people getting on here and just spewing BS about nothing, all the conspiracy stuff just because that gets the click and the view. And I can't do that. I can't imagine like subjecting myself to that.
Well, it's easy to do too. I mean, you don't have to do too much research. You can know very little. You can consume it very easily too. It doesn't take much to consume. This is the thing about these PR campaigns. They make them very easily digestible and very easy to repeat. And the truth is often very complicated and possibly boring and not that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it just, it wasn't just that I fell for Amanda Knox's PR. It's also that Knox's PR, I also fell for her. I fell for it. Like, it was very personal because I was working at O Magazine, Oprah Winfrey's magazine, and her people sent a letter. And when it just had happened, and it was filled with just, can you believe they thought she killed her roommate, and the prosecutor was under investigation and is
Right.
for
They made it
fraud.
much more exciting than it really was.
Exciting. Never mind that eventually he got cleared. She just bought some underwear. She couldn't get into her house, and she just bought some 99-cent underwear out of a bin. That didn't happen. She was at a lingerie store holding up lingerie with one of her co-murderers, Raffaele Sollecito, saying, we're going to go home and have great sex after this, right after her roommate, I think it was a day or two after her roommate was brutally murdered.
Oh, I know.
So
Yeah, it was the day right after.
well, right. Yeah.
Learning all this from your channel, it just gave me, it's like it knocked my brain back in place. Like, okay, you can't always fall for these, like, these things that are, there's something more salacious, but the person who did it, they always like dumb it down to it being very simple, very like it was a necessary thing that I had to do, like with the underwear, She made it from what it really was to being salacious and gross and whatever into no, that was necessary. I needed underwear. I couldn't get in my house. It's just, ugh, gross. Anyway, uh, that's where I found you, and I was excited about that. But I explored a lot of your channel, and I realized that maybe we don't all know as much about you and your past and your life than since you don't talk about as much of your personal life, and you don't, not that you have to. So I was just wondering if I could ask you just some questions about just your past and stuff.
I would
I'm
talk,
just kind of interested. You don't have to answer anything you don't want, and I'm not going to ask you anything crazy. So
it wasn't a strategy. It's just, you find out that I think people come to my channel to hear information and to hear the actual, hear about the cases, not hear about me. I think that's a mistake, you make.
Right. I just mean like, it's like you build a relationship with your viewers after so long.
Sure.
And I feel as a viewer, maybe we have like there are questions we may wonder about you as a person, just, just from like creating the virtual bond type of thing that we do have,
Sure. I'm an open book, Kat.
Okay.
Shoot away.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I know you live in New York now, right? New York State or city?
I live in Manhattan.
Manhattan. Yeah. Okay, cool. Did you grow up in Manhattan?
No, my father did. And my father's dream was to grow up in the country. So as soon as my older brother was born in New York City, and as soon as he could, he moved out to where my mother is from, which is New Hope, Pennsylvania. And so I was born out there and grew up out there. But my grandmother was in New York. My grandfather had an apartment. He's on my mother's side in New York. So, it was, Manhattan was always like kind of, or New York City was always in the mix. But I grew up in New Hope, Pennsylvania, home of, I don't know if you know the band Ween.
I don't.
Yeah, that's my hometown band. Yeah, probably a little before your time. Yeah. So yeah, it's just about an hour and 45 minutes outside of New York and about 45 minutes outside of Philadelphia. So and so it was really like my father's dream to live like fresh corn. He just, as soon as it was corn season, we lived like, right on the edge, our backyard was like a cornfield. And it was like, as soon as corn season came, he would get like a pile, like 10 pieces of fresh corn. He'd be like, this is amazing.
That was probably really nice though.
It fresh is. Corn? I mean, now I understand it more that I've been in the city so long. I really treasure when I can go out to the country.
You have more appreciation for it now.
For sure. Yeah.
What is something that you loved to do as a child? Something that really sticks in your mind?
Love to do as a child. Well, I was a swimmer. I was a competitive swimmer, and I loved to swim. I learned to swim before I could. My mother held me back. I wanted to swim pretty much as soon as I could, and she didn't let me swim till I was about 2 years old. So, and I just jumped in the water apparently and swam. I know this sounds like lore. It sounds like a lie, doesn't it? But they used to say like, "Here comes the baby that can swim. Here comes the baby."
So natural.
I like to swim. I like to talk. I was a big talker.
Oh, me too.
I was a pretty outgoing child, and I was just always very curious. And my mother used to say to me, and I was a big arguer. All that I found useful in my older age.
I can relate to that a lot. I really can. Because when I feel right about something, I'll be darned, I am right about that.
You do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You'll argue it to the death.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Even if, like, sometimes I'll have, like, some certain thing that I know I'll even kind of be wrong about, and I'll be like, I don't care. It's still my way. Like, I don't always do that, but sometimes.
It's hard. I've just learned, like, in my older age, it's so much easier to be like, I'm wrong. I am wrong. You know what? I am so wrong. This is what I hate, this criticism. Like, she doesn't want to admit. I have no problem now. I find it so freeing to be like, look, thought I was right, but I'm so wrong on this, And I would love, I mean, wouldn't it be if we were so wrong on some of these cases? It would be such a better reality. I would love to be
Right.
Totally,
Right. I
totally
would
messed up,
love for
right?
Lori Vallow to not have murdered her 2 children. I would have loved to have been wrong about that. I mean, I would love to be wrong that Brian Koberger didn't kill those 4 beautiful Idaho 4 students, but I know for dang sure, for dang sure, that guy is guilty. He's guilty. I don't know why these people think there's tunnels under the houses and all this crazy nonsense. It drives me
Just
nuts.
that video of him is so chilling when I think of
Oh,
Brian Koberger.
God. Oof.
And the fact that he was throwing things away in little plastic bags
Oh, I
in his
know.
home,
Oh, right.
just
Like,
being very.
he was.
I think he wanted to commit the perfect murder. It sounded like
Well,
he didn't
exactly.
because he left his knife sheath there, but because they always
Right.
mess up, it's not so
And
easy.
that's where I come into, did he leave the knife sheath as a calling card, or was it an accident? I really have a hard time with that, and he really did. He wanted to commit the perfect murder, and it seemed like he was so thoughtful about some things, thought through some aspects about it so well, but then fumbled so hard, like with the DNA. Like, dude, did you think that just because your DNA wouldn't be in the garbage can, they couldn't get to you through your parents' DNA? Like, it just it didn't make
Well,
sense to
I
me.
think we like to think that we do everything perfectly and consistently in life. But have you ever gotten dressed, done makeup, done everything, and you realize your fly's down? Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Right, yeah.
it's a very human thing where we do some things very meticulously and other things we can get sloppy or we'll just forget. Or I think we like to think that these crimes are, I think we see this in Karen Reed. Why would she call him and say, I hate him, if she was already on to covering up her murder? Why would she say, you're a pervert, John? Why would she call? Because she also had the need to express her anger. The
Mm-hmm.
murder of John O'Keefe was an expression of that
Right, but
rage
it wasn't
and her
enough.
final discard of John O'Keefe, right? And she just had to, we're contradiction. I think that what innocence fraud or these innocence fraud campaigns take advantage of is this idea is that everything we do is logical or consistent, and that there is some kind of logic consistent behavior around murder. And I don't, and often it's very contradictory and chaotic and and even if it is planned uh, meticulously, like Brian Koberger, I think there these people murder because they want to. I think it's really comes down to that's what I've they wanted to do it for what it it's just not a rational. It
Oh
shouldn't
yeah.
be. I mean, it
Yeah,
shouldn't
for
be. If it
sure.
was a rational, understandable thing, I mean, we can say there's certain motives, but there's all sorts of underlying emotional things that move people to murder. And I think, and also, you know, we're looking at their psychological makeup.
That is
I've come to the conclusion
that's
that
so
that healthy
interesting to me.
people do not murder.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah,
right,
definitely.
right. I think that we've sort of gotten in our minds. I think we've really our media and these innocence fraud campaigns have really normalized murder and make the public put themselves in the place of the murderer, not the victim, and that's something that I'm working hard to.
Yes, I respect that so much about you. I really, really do, because that's the exact way that I think about it too. And um, I have such a passion for getting the true justice for victims, and putting their name out there instead of their killer's name, remembering them. Like, John is totally forgotten in this entire thing, and he has been for 3 years in my opinion. And it's I don't know, it's crazy. And that's where it comes in for me, where I hate defense attorneys, because I just cannot imagine, like, I can't imagine getting up and standing next to somebody like Karen Reed or Brian freaking Toberger, and trying to convince 12 people of their innocence. I can't do it. Couldn't do it. Can I put their ass in jail? Sure could. Sure could.
Mhm.
But I could never defend him. I couldn't.
Right. I think there's a bunch of us that that really, it's just a rare person that couldn't, it's a rare lawyer that says because a lot of these defense attorneys start out as prosecutors, just like Karen Reed's fraudulent lawyers, Alan Jackson, David Yannetti both started off as prosecutors, but the big money, and this is what made me laugh so much when it came out that Hank Brennan was getting up to $250,000. So they capped his pay at $250,000, and I mean, it's really minute compared to what these defense
These high profile defense attorneys. Oh, I know.
right.
They're making millions.
Right. I mean, do they not think that there's a reason why Robert Alessi is volunteering his time to
him and his freaking bald spot.
That's how, I mean,
that bald
really
spot probably has its own salary, okay?
I love him to volunteer to do this. I'm friends with David McKenzie. He's a very high profile defense attorney in Oklahoma, but he gave me a very, very revealing conversation. He says, we see things as defense lawyers that we ought not see. I hope I'm not saying too much, but I think it's cost him personally a lot, as far as just his own state of mind and well-being. And I think that the defense attorneys that are doing really well, like Alan Jackson, and not touched by the clients and the cases that they advocate for, the killers that they advocate for.
Yeah, it's almost like that's psychopaths too.
I believe that they are. I believe that they're. I mean, I don't know if I can say psychopaths. I'm not a psychiatrist,
right? But I mean, it's almost like you have to have some kind of.
I think they're dark. I think there's something very dark and something wrong, very, very wrong. I would say, that's how I think of it. Psychopaths, narcissists, something very missing, that empathy just missing. And you see it. I mean, we saw it Friday when Alan Jackson was like, you can get rid of a dog. Yeah, you can get rid of a dog. There's just a dog. I mean, just the way he said it. I get the point he was making. But on Friday, even Yuri Buchanan, who's the trooper on the stand, who doesn't have animals, was like, whoa. It's like, whoa. I guess you can get rid of a dog. Get rid of. It's awfully harsh. He's like, I'd say rehome.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
talking about a living creature here.
But that's obviously how he's going to make it sound.
Mm-hmm.
He has to make it sound worse than it was.
Worse than it was, but I think that's the way he thinks of it too. I just think there's just a total. I mean, what lawyers would start it? I mean, what's come out about Karen Reed cases that her lawyers started this witness harassment. They were intimately involved, is my view, a witness harassment campaign. I mean, that's what the evidence shows, that they were calling Turtle Boy. They were never publicly saying Turtle Boy. They were never saying publicly, call off the dogs, don't harass witnesses. You didn't see them busting into the rolling rally saying, stop this. You can advocate for my client, but let's end this. They were cheering it on. Looks like very much part of the planning and intimately involved. This was a strategy because Karen Reed couldn't defend herself in court, and there weren't good enough lawyers to lawyer her way out of it.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder how they're gonna do after this. As far as their clients, and I wonder if they see this as, okay, let's keep going this way. Not only did it make us a ton of money, but look at all the supporters we got for our client. Like, this is working. Do they see this? Do you think they see this as, this is working for us? Or at this point, and how late in the game we are now, and how it's kind of, the state is kind of, I'll say this, in my opinion, the state is winning, right? they haven't, obviously the defense hasn't put up their case yet, but their momentum is slowing, the defense. It really is. You can tell that they're starting to have conflict personally with each other. I can tell that just from the way they're sitting at the defense table compared to last time, and how they talk to each other and their body language and all that. And I just wonder if they see this as a success and something they could continue into further cases.
Well, they do. I mean, they will move on. There's always some dark, disturbed psychopath who's murdered someone or preyed on someone that will come to them for a client. I mean, we thought, at least I thought when I was covering the Nexium case and Mark Agnefello was representing Keith Raniere, the Nexium guru, thought, I mean, he did such a, I think, a poor job representing him. And he was giving these public statements, like these women who were abused and preyed on. He's giving comments like, they're all adults. This was a wonderful community and they were doing adult things and basically sort of consensual. Like a libertarian, right? A libertarian. It's the same thing I think he's going to say, but he went on to represent, sorry, spoiler alert. He went on to represent, he's representing Luigi Mangione along with his wife.
And Diddy,
and he's
too,
representing
right?
Diddy. Yeah. So I think he's going to say the same thing in the Diddy case, that this was all, how dare the prudy government come in and tell P. Diddy that he can't traffic women. I think so. They move on. They move on from one disturbing dark client to another. One of P. Diddy's lawyers who bowed out represented Osama bin Laden in the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. Before he could handle Osama bin Laden, but P. Diddy was too difficult, and he begged to get off the case and was allowed to get off the case. So yeah, they just move on from client to client. It's just a job. What I've observed in the courtroom is that the prosecutors and the defense attorneys, and we've seen this in the Karen Reed case too, are all very buddy. In between breaks, they can argue and stomp their feet in motion hearings, but the next minute they're asking each other what they're going to do this weekend, and very buddy. It's just a job for them. It's a rare prosecutor where it's really a passion to get justice for victims. It's really just a job. And most of these prosecutors will leave and go on to be defense attorneys, because just the money is so limited on the state or government side.
Right. It's kind of like that person has to choose what matters more to them, money or morals. And that's a very simple decision for me to make, but other people maybe not so much.
Right. Well, I interviewed John Lewitt, who's king of the cold cases. He's known as king of the cold cases. He tries cold cases in Los Angeles, no body cases, some of the most difficult cases. He tried Robert Durst, and he says, if I wanted to say things I didn't mean, I would become or weren't true. I can't remember exactly the quote. If I wanted to say things that weren't true, I'd become a defense attorney. So I think it's a good line. So he would never be a defense. He said, never in a million years would I be a defense attorney. And
that's the kind of person I'd want as a defense attorney. Honestly.
Right. I'm just, when you watch Hank Brennan defend Whitey Bulger and say that he's become friends with Whitey Bulger, it just sort of, as much as I admire his lawyering, it kind of makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. the ice water kind of like feel like ice water is going through my veins. Like, oh, can you imagine befriending Whitey Bulger? If you just read about the women he murdered, he had no problems, just anyone in his way, very much like Tony Soprano type or, a mafia type. They don't care. If someone's in their way, they will murder. And he had usually the mafia doesn't murder women, but wives and girlfriends, but he had no problem. If someone was causing him trouble, he had no problem. According to the actual trial, he had no problem, and the witnesses in the trial, he had no problem murdering women himself.
Oof, creepy. Oh, anyway, I have to ask. I know this is we're gonna back up a little. Okay, Oprah Magazine. Tell me about that. I gotta know about it. How was it? Did you enjoy that job? And how long did you work there?
I worked there, I think it was 9 years. I did enjoy it. I don't think I could work there now just because I don't really think I could get employed in New York now. With my worldview, I think it's so opposite the majority of the workforce. But at the time, I mean, as soon as I just can't even imagine. I mean, there's times when they brought in, it was very disturbing when she started advocating for John of God. And there were people in the office saying, what is she doing? We didn't know he was a predator at that point. Just so you know, John of God was just for the audience that may not know, John of God, I've done at least one episode on him. He was a faith healer. So he did a lot of parlor tricks, like cutting open your eyes, or he's straight like you cut open women's breasts a lot, and blood would, I don't know how they do it exactly, but chicken blood, I think they use, and they cut open. People have spiritual problems, and they cut open their breasts, and and now he was preying on women, and then there was also a whistleblower. Now I don't know if this is true or not, but since she's died shortly after. I don't know what they determined, but the whistleblower was saying he was actually farming and selling women's babies. He had a baby factory too. He was neither charged nor convicted of that, but there was a whistleblower saying that. But he was serially preying on women, and I believe I believe there might have been an underage. Don't quote me on that underage element, but at least, and it was just handfuls and handfuls and handfuls of women. He's doing basically equivalent, I believe, what I've heard is equivalent to life in prison. And this is where was it? Was it somewhere in South America? And so Oprah started pushing that. Our editor, Susan Casey, so it was great when we had Amy Gross as the editor. She was a brilliant editor. The staff was amazing. But when she retired, it became a very different place. And Susan Casey took over, she's a woman who's written a lot of books about sharks. She was very shark-like herself. And so the staff kind of turned over. And so the nice people started to leave, and the really talented people started to leave, and the people that came aboard weren't as talented and certainly weren't as fun or nice to work with. That was the difference. And so Susan Casey went to John of God's. Strangely, they seem to have totally wiped this from the internet. I was looking around. You can still find her article on the internet, but I believe she went on the Oprah show, and she was doing a lot of interviews at the time. It was the cover of I believe it was on the cover of the magazine. Susan Casey, our editor, goes to John of God and cures our grief, because Oprah knew that this would be a big sell. People always want to hear about easy miracle cures, whether it's Ozempic or whether it's John of God. And I and many other people, I didn't have any power at the magazine, but many other people higher up than me were saying, what are we doing? Why are we pushing this nonsense? And it sells. That's why we were doing it. It sells. Yeah. It's so dangerous. I mean, there's a great BBC documentary on John of God, and it just dealt with the predation of terminally ill people who went to John of God for a miracle cure. So they would have a room in John of God's villa. He didn't charge anything for the actual cure, but he would charge for these treatments, like these extras you could get, like magic water and I think other stuff.
God.
I don't know exactly what. And they would have a whole room full of, how do you say it, wheelchairs and crutches that people just left behind because they magically walked. So people, instead of spending their last months and last minutes with their loved ones, and I was very sensitive to this because my father, when I was 16, my father was diagnosed with stage. First he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and it didn't become, they thought he had very good outcome. And then in 2 years it was back. He had a reoccurrence. And then they told him, he had a year to live. So
that's
to
awful.
think that, any of this kind of snake oil salesman stuff being pushed on people where they could really be spending their time with their loved ones. Instead, they're with this serial predator. We didn't know that at the time. John of God. I'm sure Oprah had heard rumors. I would think she would be in the know or be up to be warned, certainly. And for us to be pushing that. So that I came in also at the time when A Million Little Pieces, that was my first thing when I first got hired. And it was only part-time. So I went from part-time to full-time.
What was your position there?
I can't talk about it. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm
No,
sorry.
that's totally fine. You're all good.
She makes you sign these waivers.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you off the air. I'll tell you off the air.
Yeah. Okay.
But so A Million Little Pieces had just come in the book. Probably shouldn't be talking as much as I do talk about Oprah, but go ahead, try to sue me. Try to sue me, Oprah. I mean, he knows everything I'm saying is true. So A Million Little Pieces had just come out. You're probably too young to remember this. So this was a big scandal. So Oprah's had all these scandals. She seems Teflon. So no matter what she promotes, how many con artists she promotes, and I believe, my personal opinion, don't sue me, Oprah, it's my opinion, is that anyone she pushes is a con artist. So it used to be a great thing on Suze Orman, a great documentary on how she really knows nothing financially. It is a con artist. Whether it's Suze Orman or Dr. Phil, or I feel like anyone Oprah's pushing, you should probably avoid, or someone, Marianne Williamson, or anyone spiritually. Eckhart Tolle. That's another thing that she discovered when I was at O Magazine, Eckhart Tolle, and they were asking us to take courses, and I felt he was very creepy. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wasn't. They were okay with me not taking it, but they were encouraging everyone to take the Eckhart Tolle course, and I was like, no thanks. But so back to A Million Little Pieces was this book about. It was supposed to be a memoir. This was a time when memoirs were really hot, and Oprah had her book club. And for the book club, everyone was like, you got to read this book, A Million Little Pieces. It's the book club thing. It's so amazing. It's so powerful. And so I went and I bought my own copy. I wasn't given a copy. I bought my own copy. I thought, and I read, I was like, every page was a cliche. And so I started to have this game with my boyfriend where I'd read a sentence and a couple sentences, and I'd ask him based on cliches how it ended, like what was the next sentence, and he would always be able to predict it. I said, this is just ridiculous. No way is this true. He goes into rehab. He starts out as a crack addict, and he goes into rehab, and the mobster befriends him and has a whole big banquet for all the people in the rehab with lobster and shrimp, but he takes him under his wing because he realizes he's true blue. And I mean, it's so ridiculous. And Oprah believed every word, and it was a big scandal when it turned out it was totally made up. He wasn't in prison. He You know, the mobster was made up, believe it or not. I know it's shocking. And she had him back on and publicly humiliated him, basically.
Oh wow.
And then there was all these lawsuits with people who bought the book, could send the receipt. I don't know who keeps the receipts for their books, but congratulations if you do. And they could get their money back from the publisher. And I believe he was sued personally. It's my memory. But yeah, so that was going on. Yeah, it was. There's a lot of great things about it. She's very generous. She's very charismatic. She's a very smart businesswoman.
So you,
But she's very cold. You know, she's
Oh.
you know, there's not a lot of feeling there.
So you worked like without, going too deep into that, like one-on-one personally with her or spoke with her personally?
She came
You've
to the
had that
magazine.
opportunity?
She came
Okay.
to the magazine multiple times,
Okay.
and she would always run into the book editor. I mean, that's not a joke. She loves books. She loves books. That is not a put on. The first thing she wanted to do, and you could just see her just kind of get into this state. Like someone who loves shoes, who would be given a bunch of free shoes. She just loved books, would go into the book editor, and we had a great book editor at the time, fantastic. Like all the people who worked in the book section were really knew what they were talking about. So if you can go back to those old magazines and find the books that they recommended, the book reviews were excellent. Just the whole feel of the book reviews, what they highlighted was really unusual and fascinating, the stuff, and varied and fascinating. She would go into the book editor's office and just pile up all the readers' copies, so the advanced copies of these books, and she would come with big, she'd just pile it up to her chin. She was psyched. She was so just in heaven that she could get a big pile of books. So Gayle King is very different. Gayle King, I don't think has ever read a book in her life. Loves TV, loves pop culture. Not an intellect, not even close. That's all I can say. That's a nice way to put it.
Interesting.
As impressed as I was with Oprah's intelligence, Gayle is a very adept socially, and I mean, she could be a great politician. She makes you feel like I worked, every day with Gayle because she was there in the magazine all the time. She could make you feel like you're the only one in the room, that kind of politician thing. Very, very socially adept.
Oh, interesting. Wow, I couldn't
She's
even
an astronaut.
imagine working for someone of that high of a caliber, I would be scared that I was going to mess it up or something. But that's just me.
Well, lots of people come and go from magazines. It's very transient. They're always making changes. And we went from we had O at Home at the time. And so we had a home magazine and 3 floors to having 1 floor. And people were moving into the makeup closet as an office. I mean, just the magazines all collapsed. All the money from the magazines really collapsed. And in the beginning, the O list was everything. So the best thing was the free table. And I think I know this probably sounds gross, but I think I still have some of the makeup and stuff I got from the free table. It's great for gifts, great for, there'd just be always a bunch of free makeup or free stuff that came in that they wanted to review that wasn't being reviewed and was going out.
Cool. Very cool. Okay, I did see a few people in the chat who are asking about your cats. How many cats do you have and what are their names?
I have 2 cats. I have a girl cat they're both rescues. Tralala is my older cat, girl cat, who's very mellow and quiet and sweet. We call her the nurse. Like she'll just always come to you if you're feeling bad. And then I have the little one, who's the one you probably hear is the little dude who was rescued off of death row. And so Tralala was from the ASPCA.
Oh, cute.
And Smedley was rescued from an organization that rescues cats off of death. He was rescued off of death row as a kitten because he had so many illnesses as a kitten. You can see his one bad eye still, but he gets along fine with it. It's just a little hazy, and he's I think he's half Bengal, so I don't know if anybody's ever had a Bengal cat. He's very high energy. He walks in front of me everywhere I go. He's very vocal. He's a character. So as difficult, as challenging as he is as easy as the other one is. So, yeah.
Okay, this one says, did Roberta talk about how she got to know John Lewin? She kind of did, but not too much. How did you get to know him, John Lewin?
Well, I watched the Durst trial, and I didn't really fall in love with him until the Loftus cross. And that's, I think, one of the greatest cross-examinations of all time. I have it. If you haven't watched that cross in its entirety, I really encourage everyone to go. It will take you a while, but it's worth it. It's one of these things that's really worth it. He just knew everything about her entire career. He just demolished her. And he talks about, so I saw that cross and I loved it. It was like he crosses people, like the way he puts it, he says he likes to ask the questions of which there are no good answers. He just demolished her. So in my day, so there's a kind of these branches of innocence fraud. And one of these branches is, I'd call it like the Center for Reason and Justice. It's like the child predator wing of innocence fraud. And it was really popular in the 90s. There's a great book called The Witch Hunt Narrative by Ross Cheit, Cheit. He's now retired, but tenured Brown professor. And he went into all these daycare cases and cases where they say are either satanic panic or mass hysteria. And we had the same kind of journalists pushing forward this idea that all these child predators were innocent. And so Elizabeth Loftus straddled both the innocence fraud movement with the Innocence Project. She's featured on the Innocence Project website. She's one of their favorite experts. She's pushed forward this idea that we can't believe anything that we see or hear, that no human is ever reliable. She testified for Ted Bundy, Ghislaine Maxwell, Bill Cosby, what is it? It's like a huge list. I want to say, what is it called? The Strangler, the Hillside Strangler, I believe. Is that his name in California?
That sounds right.
Richard Ramirez. Just like a huge list of disgusting people. And not only that, she befriended Jerry Sandusky and Tim Hennis. She personally got out of, really was responsible for overturning his conviction in the second trial. Right after that, they found his DNA. He had killed 2 babies and their mama, Katie Eastburn, and their 2 daughters on a military base in North Carolina. And he had a Ricky Schroeder. They made a TV movie about it. I'll get to how I met John Lewin in a second. So Ricky Schroeder was in this movie called Innocent Victims, meaning Tim Hennis, the murderer himself, was a victim because he was innocent. So he was convicted on the first trial. Then they had some technicality, and his conviction was vacated, and they tried him again. And then he was acquitted then. And Elizabeth Loftus went around with Tim Hennis to the Joan Rivers show and these Innocence Project conventions and touted him around as innocent. Then DNA came around, and they found Katie Eastburn, his DNA inside this mom, Katie Eastburn. and they tried him militarily, and that's where he sits to this day, on military death row. And she still teaches his case like it's a case of innocence, with no update on the fact that his DNA was found. She says that it may have been corrupted in her cross somehow, some vague way. It may have been. So I saw that, and I wrote him an email, and then about two hours later, I get a call. This is John Lewin, and it's really the only time that I've ever kind of gotten starstruck and freaked out. So yeah,
that's pretty cool, though. Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what I would do if Hank Brennan just called me up. I'd freak out.
Right. You get like a number. It's like a Los Angeles number on your phone. You're like, hey, this is John Lewin. I was like, excuse me, I need a moment.
Excuse me, can you just say your name again one more time?
I really wasn't. It's probably embarrassing to talk about, but yeah. I'm trying to get over my lawyer worship. It's not, what I mean? I don't, or what my fandom is a better way of these lawyers, but I just thought his cross was amazing, of Elizabeth Loftus, and it was so great to see her taken down. She was such a powerful figure, and she still is, and she's still indoctrinating. There's a million teachers still teaching, her ideas. Her ideas are still spreading. I mean, I get it. Nobody thinks that memory is like a tape recorder. Nobody thinks of it, but she stretches it. So, she stretches it to mean that we can't trust anything. Really, it's just a part of a RICO grift to get killers and predators off. That's what it is, my view. It goes all through.
Me too, Allie. Allie says she has a crush on Hank Brennan. He's 10 out of 10. He's not good looking or anything, but I mean, not that he's bad looking, but he's not particularly, it's not that. It's his brain. It's the way he thinks. It's the way everything. I mean, he's definitely way too old for me, but I'm impressed with his brain. And I mean, I suppose I don't consider myself a fan of these people, these prosecutors that I like. I think it's just like I have so much respect for the work and the way they think, I guess, that I don't know. I guess I just look at it a little bit differently than like a fan type of thing. I see a fan being like Aiden and Karen. Like Aiden's obsessed with her and he's her fan. Turd boy.
I think it's more of a symbiotic relationship with Aiden and Karen. I think they're two psychopaths who they can use each other, and they love getting over. I mean, they're just trying to, not only, getting over on the man, getting over on the system, conning the public and getting rich. I think Karen has profited off her crime so much. But yeah, what I mean about these lawyers, I think there's something very powerful, like the same way a rock star takes over a stage, the same way a lawyer can take over a courtroom and have such control over the courtroom and control over the language and have such power. I'm trying to view it. It's a very dangerous and powerful thing. And people who are doing this innocence fraud are lawyers. And this is one of the messages I'm trying to get across. And I think are very dangerous, dark personalities. And the majority of them, John Lewin made, a comment, made a comment on his Facebook page about innocence fraud and the Innocence Project, but he's the only one who's ever spoken up in any small way or big way. No, they're all letting this happen. They're letting and I think they're going to be sorry when this innocence fraud campaign eventually uproots our entire legal system and makes every court a kangaroo court. We're just seeing the beginning of it in Massachusetts, where these ridiculous things are read that are redundant and unnecessary, And I mean, don't believe can't believe if you determine that this is true statement, then you can believe it. And who put this kind of language in our
who
court
needs
system?
to be told that?
It's
like,
ridiculous.
if you got to tell our jury that, they shouldn't be on our jury.
That's so minor too. I mean, such a minor thing I'm pointing out. I mean, this is going to absolutely just. I mean, they were already getting laws in, changing the laws, changing.
Celebrate already rewrote their whole ass system, and I felt like they were trying to get that in there. I felt like he was, I forget who. It must have been Brennan questioning. Gosh, who was up there? Ian Whiffen, I think it was. He kind of kept trying to put in there, like, why did this get changed? Why did Celebrate change the system? And I felt like he was looking for, because of the defense's expert, from last trial. Like, I felt like he was trying to get that in there somehow. Even though that would have been objected upon, I'm sure, but it just seemed like he was trying to some way get that in there.
Right. What you're pointing out is that the judge has allowed a totally debunked point to come in. So now the jurors have to argue about whether the earth is round or flat in deliberations. It's absurd that she allowed these experts, this Richard Green, to come in and give this opinion, of which they had to, this 227 Google search. I don't know if they will use them or not. There's a rumor that they won't. I kind of feel like they might use Richard Green because they have nothing else.
They don't have anybody.
They have nothing else.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's the least of it. It's just, my point is that none of these lawyers, these corrupt, dangerous lawyers, are the ones pushing this innocence fraud, and the judges are going along with it and rubber stamping it, and our juries are being brainwashed in our universities and our schools, and indoctrinated into this ideology that there's just masses of innocent people being convicted every day. And that, I mean, when I was a juror, the first vote was 11-1 guilty. And right before we turned, this one juror who didn't listen to the evidence very closely, misunderstood the evidence, seemed like she might have been trying to nullify the jury. I don't know. She was very frustrating. I clammed up and didn't deal with her. But right before we all, our 4-person signed the slip, with our verdict, that we had 2 women crying, and then people started saying, well, there are lots of wrongful convictions, but we don't think this is one of them. I was like, yeah, like what? Like what? That's what this guy is guiltier than sin, and that's what they're thinking of, that we might be wrongfully convicting someone. So I think this has really permeated our legal system, and there's not one, and every lawyer that I talk to off air tells me they know this is going on. They know about this fraud. They're amazed at the amount of guilty people with these innocence fraud campaigns, and no one's speaking up because they don't want to be the ones at the, I don't know. They don't want to go against their fellow colleagues. They don't want to be odd men out. So I appreciate even a Facebook. I mean, the bar is very low for me. I'll appreciate even a Facebook post talking about the Innocence Project. And even that, was qualified with, they do good work. I felt like saying, yeah, like what? Tell me about your colleague who's doing such good work. I mean, it's like saying that Madoff made people money. 1 or 2 people might have made money with Madoff, but so there might have been 1 or 2 people, or maybe a handful of people who were innocent, helped by the Innocence Project. But by and large, the majority, way more, the majority is guilty people getting off fraudulently.
Oh, absolutely.
By the Innocence Project. So I think it negates it, that negates the value. And I think we already have an Innocence Project. It's called our appeal system. it's just really, it's so rich, and there's innocence clinics in every school. It's just overtaken our society, and it's just getting stronger and stronger every year. So I really thought this was unique with Karen Reed to see, or unique for America to see an innocence fraud campaign pre-trial. But I talked to Martin Tribe, who's been covering innocence fraud cases. Just in he has the Crooked City Substack, which is excellent. I would encourage everyone to follow it. He said, "Oh no, they've been doing that in Chicago for 40 years." So,
oh my gosh,
this is the pre-trial innocence fraud campaigns. So, I think this will become the norm because it's so popular, and it brings in so much money, and it works. I mean, we might be headed towards another hung jury in Karen Reed or an acquittal.
Oh, don't say
I'm
that.
not convinced we're going to see. I think the momentum for all what we're looking at, but that's the curious thing. It's not like in these innocence fraud campaigns, you go, oh, these are iffy cases or cases that lawyers are making great points or for innocence. No, they're all overwhelmingly guilty, and their points are totally fraudulent and laughable, and they get away with it.
Yeah.
So it could work. I don't know who's on the jury. We hear very good reports coming in from the jurors being very disgusted with Karen Reed, very disgusted with her lawyers. But I also heard a report of one juror nodding along with Alan Jackson. So you don't know who's on there. And Turtle Boy was telling people to get on the jury and just don't get caught. So they were actively trying to nullify, corrupt this jury with Karen Reed. So
it's
yeah,
ridiculous. I think
and
that
you're right.
ahead.
The judge is totally, part of the defense team at this point, and she's an innocence fraudster herself. If you look at, former defense attorney, and her interest is wholly with Karen Reed and her lawyers.
I'm really glad you said that because I have a clip I want to show you real quick. Let's see, how long have we been on? About an hour. Okay, we can watch this clip. I wanted to get your opinion on it, and it relates to exactly what you were just saying, except it's the opposite opinion, and I need to hear your opinion on it.
Okay.
So let me just share it real quick. Okay. Can you see it? Good.
Yep.
Oh, okay. This is from Duty Ron's channel. He is a former NYC detective, and he has another guy on here too, who is also a former NYC detective, and this is their opinion on what's going on in Karen Reed, and I think it's ridiculous.
A lot of sidebars, a lot of arguments. Your thoughts on the kickoff of round 2 for Karen Reed?
Well, I'm already getting pissed off. I'm pissed off that we're here to begin with because of the double jeopardy that I believe was established. And if it was any one of us that were in the same situation, or the prosecutor's family members, or the judge's family member in the same situation in a different court, they'd be screaming to the high heavens that this is unfair and unjust. All right, it is a miscarriage of justice to proceed with the 2 charges that a previous jury had already acquitted Karen Reed on. Okay, I don't know how this judge or this prosecutor can sleep with themselves at night, lay their heads down on a pillow. I don't understand it. It just tears me apart. I've dedicated my life to fighting injustices, and this is huge, a huge injustice. That said, I don't care for this prosecutor. I think he's highly unethical. Okay, he's made horrendous statements in motions, and nothing happens to him. No punishments. Okay.
Did you turn records over to the Superior Court?
I provided a copy of that production notice to Ms. Little.
Did you provide the records to the Superior Court?
I didn't directly email that to the court, no.
Did you indirectly email it to the court?
It
It was my understanding that it would be passed along to the court. So you did not, pursuant to the order, provide the records to the Superior Court, did you?
Not directly to the court, no.
Back in March of 2024, you spoke on the
Responded about, again, analysis that I've done. That's
This part didn't really matter, so I skipped through it because I just wanted to hear Duty Ron's and Ed's opinion.
you sure are.
I don't like Judge Bev either, and her condescension to the defense team, and the way she treats the prosecutor with kid gloves and slams the defense team. I'm sorry, I feel she's biased. This is
Definitely not
crazy.
wrong. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, Judge Beverly Canone, very, very one-sided, and she's not even trying to hide it. She's blatant about it. The way this evidence was collected with the red solo cups, the lead blower.
Please, and the Canton PD's audit and giving themselves attaboys and saying, they throw it out of the box. No, they're forensic standards. You follow the forensic standards. You didn't call a crime scene team out there. You had some search team that was not forensic qualified to be doing any of this. Where's the crime scene investigators? Where were they? Because they would have stopped that immediately.
Okay. What do you think about that?
Well, okay, I had to turn it all the way up to hear it. But you sent me that clip before, so I'd seen it before. Well, there's a couple things. One is he's very vague. He uses terms like fighting injustice his whole life. And
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. Everybody's saying they couldn't hear it.
so what you want to do is you want to go to present, and I think you were sharing our screen. And so you want to like open another tab and share another tab totally separate from this tab.
Yeah.
So it looked like you were
it's
sharing this
because-
tab. Yeah.
It's because I have it. It's.
Do you have it as a video file? Then you should share it as a video file.
I don't have that up.
Do you want me to share it? Hold on. Let me see if I can do it.
Oh, I see. Video file.
And these technical stuff fun.
I'm not.
Drives me crazy.
It's just like it's not showing up. Okay. Well, I can just turn the volume up. Can you close the door, please? Okay, we'll forget about it. Let me see here. I'm sorry. My dad is trying to walk in and now my computer's freaking out.
I can find it and share it if you want.
Okay, just tell me if the sound is good.
With the shenanigans from Judge Bev.
You hear it good now?
Reminiscent of what we saw in the first trial. A lot of sidebars, a lot of arguments. Your thoughts on the kickoff of round 2 for Karen Reed?
Well, I'm already getting pissed off. I'm pissed off that we're here to begin with because
Is the sound good on that? Better or
Same.
no? It's the same?
It's the same for me.
Okay.
I don't know. Oh, Taterbug says it's better.
Oh, yeah?
of the double jeopardy that I believe was established. And if it was any one of us that were in the same situation, or the prosecutor's family members or the judge's family member in the same situation in a different court, they'd be screaming to the high heavens that this is unfair and unjust. All right. It is a miscarriage of justice to proceed with the 2 charges that a previous jury had already acquitted Karen Reed on. Okay. I don't know how this judge or this prosecutor can sleep with themselves at night, lay their heads down on a pillow. I don't understand it. It just tears me apart. I've dedicated my life to fighting injustices, and this is huge, a huge injustice. That said,
So, he thinks this is a huge injustice. He's been fighting his whole life so that people don't, so that investigators don't screw things up like this when they, are collecting evidence from a scene and all of this. And he thinks that double jeopardy, that really matters. There's double jeopardy attached to this now, which in my opinion is crazy because once again, if you can't read and fill out your verdict slip, you shouldn't be a juror. It's very simple. They make them very easy. I've seen them before. It's crazy. I mean, so why do you think these two, as former detectives, exactly, Supreme Court didn't think so. Thank you, Kara. The Supreme Court didn't agree with them. Why do you think they are pushing that so hard? I can't make sense of it.
Well, they're playing to their audience. So this is thank you. Hold on one second. I'm getting an echo. Hold on. So he says he's fighting injustice. It's very vague, the kind of injustice that he says he's fighting. Often ex-detectives, ex-FBI people are used as appeals, to appeal to authority. I used to fall for it all the time. Jim Clemente and I can't remember his first name right now. Moore is his last name. Were used in Amanda Knox's case. There's a great video by True Crimes channel called "Lies of the Ex-FBI" for Amanda Knox.
True Crime Rocket Science.
No, it's called True Crimes channel. It's the original, really. Amanda Knox. She's written. It's called she wrote 2 books on Amanda Knox called The Unreliable Memoir. I think it's called something of Amanda Knox. They're excellent with a lot of facts, correcting the facts of Amanda Knox's. But I can show it. I think I've shown it on I believe I've shown it at least on one of my Amanda Knox's episodes. There's so many. But they're used to convince people that if you don't see Karen Reed's innocence or Amanda Knox's innocence or Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, 2 other deranged and dangerous convicted killers, innocence, then there's something wrong with you. You just don't have the expertise or the knowledge, or something else is wrong with you. And they're very vague as to how the judge is being. I can tell you how, in specifics, how I feel the rulings that the judge did that were preferential to the defense and unfair to and I've talked about them at length. I don't think my audience wants me to go into them right now, but this is all shorthand. Notice that there's nothing really given. It's just stated as fact. And there's no, as the young people say, no receipts given or evidence given as to why. And this double jeopardy thing, the Supreme Court, thank you, Court. Is it Kara? Kara stole my thunder there. The Supreme Court went all the way up to this our highest court in the land. So the Supreme Court of Massachusetts, and then the Supreme Court of the land wouldn't look at the case, because I'm not really a believer that these jurors acquitted Karen Reed on these 2 biggest counts.
Me neither.
So I think that this was another way, another fraud push to try to get Karen Reed off of the counts with strangely, they all agreed on the counts with the biggest prison time attached. Isn't that unusual? And if you look at these I've shown these juror forms before, they were all individual. And when I was a juror, we double checked that we were filling everything out. They have to, I think there was something, if there's something not right, you have to come back and do it.
You got to do it over again.
Right. We had to do, I think we had to do it so I don't believe with all that I don't believe it was a double jeopardy case. Certainly the court doesn't agree with them, but they like to hype up their audience. It also brings in the do-re-mi. People will pay to hear this, to hear an opinion that kind of riles them up and they agree with, right? Like, oh yes, it was an absolute injustice and Karen Reed is innocent. And
I'm sorry, Frankie Figs, but Amanda Knox is not innocent. I don't know why you think that or where you got that, but she's not. Her DNA was on the murder weapon. Her blood was mixed with Meredith's blood all over that place. She's not an innocent. Her PR
She
team might tell
lied.
you
She
so,
got
but she's
caught in a
not.
million lies too. Don't forget Amanda Knox's own lies and contradictions. And then she blamed her boss for her murder. What innocent person blames a boss who was very nice to them of her murder? The murder she took part with two other people, Rudy Goudet and Raffaele Solecito. There's no, the court that let her go. This is her great exoneration. Determined she was there at the scene, and she wiped Meredith Kircher's blood. She washed Meredith Kircher's blood off her hands and her feet. And they also, every court that's looked at this has determined that this was a crime done by multiple people. Why isn't Amanda Knox, she really believes in her innocence, looking for the other people who took part in this crime? If she, she and her innocence fraud campaign alone believed that Rudy Goudet did it alone. Not one court, even the court that let her go, believes that this was a crime of one person. Certainly, if you're going to say Rudy Goudet was involved, I agree with you. He was absolutely a co-killer in all of this. But so was Amanda Knox and Raffaele Solecito. And to say that Rudy did it alone means that all the DNA that implicates Rudy Goudet is correct. And all the DNA evidence, forensic evidence that indicates Amanda Knox, and there's a lot of it, and Raffaele Solecito was wrong and corrupted. This is the same investigation, same labs. That's not a logical conclusion.
Okay, and her response is, you know why that transpired where she said Lumumba? I don't really know what that means. You know why that transpired? No, we don't know why she blamed an innocent man. We don't know. Because she didn't want to face her own guilt. That's why, to save her own skin, which she has no right to do, so I don't.
I mean,
and she had staged break-ins before. Murder by Maestro reminds me.
Amy Gill knew from her own book she was guilty. I didn't. I didn't read her book, but I was totally fooled. I really thought I was on her side. I had to become. There's all the people say I was so biased. I was biased the other way towards Amanda Knox. Everything was singing her innocence in America by design. Her dad bought her a PR team before he hired a lawyer. And to say that Solecito couldn't hurt a fly
is ridiculous.
That's just saying that he's not this kind of person who would murder. Well, unless you know him personally. I think we've learned that all sorts of people can commit these crimes. And he certainly, how do we say it? The things found in his apartment and on his computer were in line with.
He's no angel.
Oh, you know him personally? You know him personally? Okay.
Me?
Be careful. He says he knows him personally. Be careful. Is this
Frankie
Amanda Knox?
Figs does?
This is Amanda Knox in the chat.
Frankie Figs. I just know that Frankie Figs is a mod for Vinnie Politan. So
knows him personally.
She knows him. She knows him. Oh, all well in the world. Then she knows him.
Be careful. Psychopaths can be very psychopaths and.
Frankie, do you live in Italy then, or wherever Solecito comes from? Let's see what else. What is it?
It's like Amanda Knox is always like finding anything with herself. So funny.
I know. Like if she was innocent, she would have shut up 12 freaking years ago. I mean, she makes it still about her and her wrongful conviction and her wrongfully accused, and who cares about Meredith because I was wrongfully convicted. I mean, that's how she comes across, and it's disgusting. Let's see. This person asks, Judgmental asks, Roberta, do you believe in most cases when they don't have DNA/prints, but the suspect is obvious many times because the forensics team, but the suspect is obvious. It's many times because the forensic team was inexperienced or didn't have proper training.
Well, I mean, that's a very broad question. Without knowing the specifics, I can't comment. But I will comment that we really like to think this is another technique of innocence fraud, is making every case a DNA case and thinking that every case can be solved when it's really only a very small minority of cases that are, it's a minority of cases that are solved with DNA. Most cases are solved just with old school detectiving. So we like to, this is one of the techniques of innocence fraud, is for ex-convicts and convicts, people who have been convicted of the crime, to come back and say they want to test DNA, either knowing that it's not going to be in there or be hopeful that it's not going to be there. There's this one case, Kevin Cooper case, where he broke out of prison, killed a family, and the minor son's friend who was sleeping over, the minor son lived. So he broke out of prison, went and killed the family, stole their car. And Kim Kardashian and the Innocence Project, along with a New York Times writer named Nicholas Kristof, were all advocating for his innocence. It was made The Daily, which is one of the biggest podcasts in the world. They were all advocating that Kevin Cooper was innocent and that this DNA was somehow, or that the evidence was planted or was a corrupt cop, and they were pushing for more DNA testing, and they were attacking Kamala Harris for blocking the DNA testing of the crime scene. They wanted to test the items that weren't even argued in closing argument. And eventually she said, no, there's enough other evidence that proved his guilt. You can't retest, because they know that this is it's a grift. It's a grift. Because if the DNA isn't there, not all DNA is there. Not everything is touched. Not all DNA is left sometimes. And sometimes other DNA that is left at the crime scene, I'll talk about another case in a second, is related to the crime. So eventually Jerry Brown approved the DNA testing, and they tested the DNA, and lo and behold, it was like, this Kevin Cooper touched everything or left his DNA everywhere because it came back with his DNA. Did the Innocence Project walk away? No. They doubled down on innocence, so much so that Newsom had to have an independent, and this is another grift of the innocence fraud, these groups of experts, quote unquote, that reinvestigate a case years and years later, and they confirmed his guilt. So the Free Kevin Cooper movement is pretty much dead. So most of the Kevin Cooper people have moved on to other cases, but same thing happened with Purvis Payne, another guilty murderer who murdered Charisse Christopher and murdered her infant daughter, Lacey Christopher, and tried to murder her son, Nicholas Christopher. He had to hold his intestines all the way to the hospital.
Oh
his DNA was, his prints were found all over the scene. He was seen by the neighbors opening and shutting the door when the victim tried to escape. He testified in his own defense. They asked him how blood got on his shoes, and he said, I believe he said something like, that's when the victim, Charisse Christopher, hit the wall. They were like, excuse me? I mean, this guy is the most guilty person ever. He was caught wasn't caught, but while he was fleeing, he ran into a police officer covered in blood, was found hiding in an attic later. Doesn't this sound like a great case for innocence?
Sounds like
right? Horrible, horrible mama and baby murderer. And another case, I believe, Kim Kardashian and the Innocence Project champion, he got the death penalty, and they retested the knife in that case, the murder weapon, and they found Purvis Payne's DNA on the knife, but that's not what the press went with. That was like in paragraph 3 down. Instead, they went with some incomplete, meaning it would never be matched to anyone. DNA was found on the knife, and that was the lead. That's what the press led with. That new suspects, meaning this incomplete DNA, probably just hanging around on this kitchen knife, proved Purvis Payne will never be matched to anyone because it's incomplete. Proved Purvis Payne's innocence, and that guy eventually, with the Innocence Project, so they didn't walk away when his DNA was, just like they didn't walk away when Kevin Cooper's DNA, they doubled down on their efforts to free him. And eventually he may be freed in a couple years because they got him off death row into general population. They reversed his death penalty conviction on the idea, this is another technique that they use, that he was too stupid to kill. Like, he's not the brightest guy, but he's certainly not so mentally challenged that he can't be executed. But they push that. And I mean, and he's now may get out and may be paroled in a couple years. So you can thank the Innocence Project for that. These are just some of the cases. So we like to think that the Innocence Project would walk away when their client's DNA is found. No. They doubled down.
Crazy.
So DNA is everything. It's exonerating until when it's not exonerating, it's to be forgotten and ignored. So I can't tell you. I just can say that you have to remember that the Innocence Project was birthed out of the O.J. Simpson movement, where they discovered that many people didn't really understand DNA and that they could manipulate courts using DNA and get people freed using DNA. So, and misrepresenting the significance of it. So if no DNA is found, it's exonerating of their client, and all the other evidence goes out the window.
Right.
And very seldomly is person, we understand these cases are a totality of the evidence. It's not one piece of evidence. It's not just a confession. It couldn't be. It's legally not allowed to just be a confession right? So it's a lot of other evidence that convicts these people. And so all the other evidence goes out the window, and then the press starts writing about them like they're exonerated. And you'll see that people like Marty Tankleff, there's another, please go, it's probably one of my favorite episodes I've ever done. It took years for me to go through all the transcripts and court transcripts and case files and that, court transcripts and appeal documents in that case, and find them and go through them. That guy also had a PR agent, the same PR agent as the West Memphis Three. And he uses this word exonerated. He has an exonerated license plate. His handle on Instagram is exonerated. And now he leads classes at Georgetown University he brought on Adnan Syed, and he leads young people into investigating convicted killers' cases to get them freed. So they investigate innocence. So I really encourage everyone to also watch the documentary A Murder in the Park about the Medill Innocence Project in Northwestern.
That's a really good one.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really a dangerous thing that we're doing, uprooting these convictions. The people that know about these cases are long gone. The prosecutors sometimes are dead or retired or moved on to other cases. And there's no one there really who cares about these original convictions. And the victims' families are often so traumatized and broken apart that they can't and don't have the power to fight for their loved ones' convictions. I mean, a real profile encourages the family members who have stood up and really fought Rodney Reed's conviction in Texas. I mean, that's another one that Dr. Phil, who's very intimately involved in pushing all this innocence fraud, along with Dr. Oz, he pushes it too, is they're trying to get Stacey Stites' family has done a beautiful job of being her voice and fighting the innocence fraud and the Rodney, trying to get Rodney Reed, a serial rapist and murderer of Stacey Stites, off of death row in Texas. So
imagine how
that's
awful that
another
would feel
one.
as the victim's family. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we could just go through these. I have like 6 or 7 little questions that I starred from some people in chat. And let's see, it's been an hour and a half, so I guess we can do that and end her there. Okay, Tammy would like to know how tall you are, Roberta. I don't know why, but she is wondering.
How tall I am?
Yes.
I'm 5'7".
Okay, Tammy, there you go. Roberta is 5'7". Tammy would also like to know what our opinions are. Okay, she thinks that Karen faked getting sick at school, like 1st through 12th grade, and would call her dad mostly to take her home for being sick, but not actually being sick, just faking it. And then she says faking it, then did it as brain wiring by teen. Okay, I don't know what that last sentence means. Perhaps Tammy, you could
I know
clarify
what
that
she
a little.
means. I know what she means. She means
Okay,
that. So
go ahead.
what I've been arguing on my channel is I'm skeptical of Karen
About
Reed's
all these,
claims
yes.
that she has MS. I know that if you go back to Natalie Bernschneider-Wawicki, who was the intermediary and an advocate for Karen Reed, she was the intermediary between Karen Reed and Aiden Turtleboy Carney, the blogger who
Right.
has pushed this innocence fraud campaign forward and has now 16 witness harassment campaign counts against him. So she said that Karen Reed studies Facebook like no other. When John O'Keefe got back in touch with her on Facebook, and there's a thing I was wrong about. I always thought it was Karen Reed because she loves Facebook. So Natalie Wawicki says that Karen Reed studies Facebook like no other. So I thought that there is a good chance that she profiled John O'Keefe on Facebook and his friends and found out that maybe his good friend Jen McCabe has MS and went with MS. So when he introduced Karen Reed to Jen McCabe, he said, "Oh, you'll like her. She has MS too."
Mm-hmm.
She said she had to Higgins in there for that she had 10 surgeries for colon cancer. Now, my father had colon cancer and didn't have 10 surgeries. So, I mean,
yeah, and it's like,
we've never
why
heard
would you
about
need
any of
colon
these.
surgery if you had your colon taken out? Which one is it,
Right.
Karen? Did you have colon surgery and have 10 different surgeries, or did you have your colon removed and you have colitis? Like,
Right.
and wait, you have colitis, you had to have your whole colon removed? I know a couple of people who have colitis and they've never had to have like surgery because of it. It just doesn't make
Right.
sense.
So also that she has migraines and a brain tumor.
Yeah.
And I've asked the question, is she using these illnesses? She may have MS and not the other illnesses. She may have something else. But the way she drinks and abuses her body, it doesn't mean one can be true or not the other, makes me think that we've never seen her sick. We've only seen her look tired, never ill. And she certainly doesn't have any kind of, she didn't have her colon removed. We know that's a lie.
Yeah, she'd have colostomy bag.
I believe is a lie. We've never heard about any kind of John O'Keefe rushing to her side during surgery. She's had 10 surgeries or any of these surgeries or any time off or any kind of her court dates have never been moved for any of these kind of illnesses. So, and I heard that there was no MS medication found in her urine at the hospital. I don't know if that's true or not. That's something I've heard and not investigated myself. So take that with a grain of salt. But it is, I just wonder if she may have MS and not the other. She may have none of it. I wonder if she has any of it. I'm skeptical of all of it.
I'm at this point convinced she doesn't have any of it.
I think that's pretty much where, when someone lies so much, you'd have to prove it to me that they do have these illnesses. And just me questioning it on Facebook, I put up a video. You can watch it at Roberta Glass Pod on X, on not Facebook, X, sorry, on X, or formerly called Twitter, where I put up a video of Karen Reed's arraignment, where David Yannetti is saying my client has had migraines and a brain tumor and her entire colon removed. And I said, what happened to her brain tumor? That was shared with the court, not, quote, not for the purposes of evoking any sympathy, unquote. And the Free Karen readers, I had to report some of them, were calling me a see you next Tuesday and this and that. So, I don't know if that was exactly, those kind of insults, let's put it that way. And a terrible person. And that's the power of claiming illness. You're a terrible person if you even question it. But she's such a liar. She's been caught in so many lies that I'm going to be skeptical. I don't think it's hypochondria. I don't think she's a hypochondriac. I think it's that she uses these illnesses to gain power over people and you gain it's kind of, you get into a high status position where your behavior can't be questioned and you put another person into submission. That is what Karen Reed is all about, power and control.
I agree. I think that should have been the entire theme of this case. They should not have gone with jealousy. They needed to focus in on her coercive control and how obsessive she was about it.
I agree too. I wish we had seen, a real expert in coercive control, but maybe that would have taken them off into a, I'm not a lawyer, so maybe that would have taken them off into a more gray area. I think it's near impossible. There's been so much innocence fraud in Massachusetts, it's near impossible to get a conviction. I mean, we saw the murder case before this. The guy killed his wife, tied her body down in a pond with rocks, admitted he strangled her, and he got voluntary manslaughter. I mean, granted, he got convicted, but voluntary manslaughter? Seriously for that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So,
I mean, I'll be happy if Karen does 5 years. I mean, I just want her to do some time. I would like her to see her take some type of responsibility for her actions, even though I know she personally won't. But I think she deserves to have a rough time for a few years.
Really, Kat? Just 5 years? Why just 5 years?
No. I'm saying I want to see her go for life. But if all we're looking at is, I want her to at least do some time. I'm saying I'll take 5 years, even if that's the lowest we can get. But no, I want to see her go for the rest of her life. Yeah.
Yeah, she'll never take any responsibility. And if she gets convicted even of some puny charge, she will be she will be fighting it. This campaign will continue. I don't know how strong, but it will continue, and it will actually finally match the name of it. I mean, it's so hilarious that they're calling it Free Karen Reed when she's she's free now at the Omni Hotel, living high on the hog, better than most of us, certainly better than me. Eating at the finest restaurants, drinking at the finest bars, wearing designer clothes, sleeping in a very nice hotel suites.
While she complains about the money she's spending.
Right. I do not believe she's $5 million in debt. I believe she's, my belief is that she has earned money on this. The reason I believe that is because Alan Jackson charged, I think it's $250,000 and Yannetti $200,000, around that. So take that with a grain of salt, in that neighborhood. And she took out a low interest loan on that. She sold her house, so that should all be paid off. And she's raised more than $1 million. What does she need more than $1 million for? Where has this money gone? And it's all controlled by Alan Jackson's law firm. And I think complaints should be made and looked into. And I'm hoping that my audience will make bar complaints against Alan Jackson and David Yannetti, the way that they've conducted themselves in this case. If good people don't speak up, they will not only continue in the way that they've operated in this trial, other lawyers will get ideas and feel free to continue acting this way or start acting this way.
Yeah, I can say that personally, I've filed complaints on them. I did that last month, and I won't go too deep into it, but I have heard back from people, and I've been speaking with people. So hopefully,
Excellent.
maybe
Thank
something
you.
will come of something. You know,
send them send them the video of Alan Jackson raising money for Karen Reed and saying that he's going to give people who donate money and win this illegal lottery an inside look into the defense.
Yeah.
That is so not to the standards of lawyers, the ethical standards of lawyers, in my opinion, the way they should act.
Yeah, well, that was one of the questions they had. They were like, do you have any proof, you know? And I'll talk to you more about that offline. But because I actually did have a question for you about that anyway. I wanted to get your opinion on what I should clip in and send in.
A lot of financial stuff, because that's the easiest to prove and the less vague. I mean,
exactly. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, she was flipping Yuri off during yesterday's testimony. She was.
That's just another example. See, I mean, I'll give you examples of why I feel this judge is poor. There's an example, is that Karen Reed is flipping off witnesses. If that happened, I told you when I was Nexium case, I'm sorry, probably my audience is so sick of hearing this, but a journalist, I believe it was a journalist, someone in the gallery, was thrown out of court for giving a look in the gallery, not on trial, right? Not on trial, not just in the gallery. They gave a look and they were kicked out of court in the federal Nexium case, the Keith Raniere's case. So the judge should have eyes on the back of her head everywhere. And Karen Reed, if she can't behave herself, should not be, should definitely, they should make arrangements for her to watch her trial and outside of the courtroom. This is absurd that she's allowing this to go on. I mean, we already have her father with a court officer sitting next to him. It's been said so he can't look at the jury, but I don't know if that's it. We don't know. A lot of this stuff, we don't know what they're doing. Right. So I think this is all signs that, to me, it shows that they're melting down and losing it. You know, Karen Reed didn't have to do this that last time. Why didn't she do this last time?
I think they're going to be sorry going with this whole innocence fraud campaign defense, because they shouldn't have done it last time, because it didn't leave them room for anything else for a defense this time. You know, they were stuck on that, and it was a horrible defense last time, and it's a horrible defense this time. And Hummingbird, we are watching the same case. I don't know why you can't wrap your head around the fact that Karen Reed is guilty, but she is. She hit John with her very large SUV, with her foot 75% down on the pedal, going 24 miles in reverse, and she even gave her wheel a little crank to the right just so she made sure she hit him. He had taillight pieces embedded into his shirt. Yes, I pronounced that weird, but tell me how this is the one particular question that not one freaking reader has been able to answer for me. How the hell did somebody plant teeny tiny microscopic pieces of taillight into somebody's shirt? Not just plant them, not just put them on top of a shirt, embed them into the cloth, into the fabric. She probably isn't going to answer, but I'd like to know how you do that.
Right. Well, they had to go. So there's two different things. So there's the innocence fraud campaign, and then there's Karen Reed's defense in court, which is similar to her campaign. So they needed a salacious story to pull in the public. So a salacious story brought in a lot of money and gave her team a lot of power and put pressure on the court from the outside. But was it the best defense to use in court? Maybe. It hung the jury first time. I don't know. I mean, that's not a win. We're still at zero. It's not a win for anyone. So we'll see if it may get her a lesser charge. It may get her there's a reason these innocence fraud campaigns are very powerful. There's a reason our press is all on board. I think it's less so this time. I think it's also the other thing it does, these innocence fraud campaigns, is it shuts up good people. There's certainly more people on this side speaking up than ever before. I see more people speaking up about Karen Reed's guilt than ever before because now they have courage to do so. First trial round, we were such a minority. And the reason that they harass and insult you is to get you to shut up. They want to scare everybody into silence so that only their viewpoint is heard. And that also continues the echo chamber, right? So it's a very sophisticated and it's simple, but I don't know. It's simple yet sophisticated. I don't think it's sophisticated as much as it's widespread. That would be a better word. Widespread. It's infiltrated our media because our media is so on board. I mean, did you see the picture of Karen Reed being interviewed by the media? I mean, they're just smiling like they're interviewing a rock star. I mean, they just smiling with their microphones in their face.
So weird to me. It's creepy. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I wouldn't even want to go up and talk to her. I know she's just going to lie straight to my freaking face. So why even? I don't know.
That's my experience. I mean, there's a lot of psychopaths, and it's the professions that psychopaths go into are journalism, law. So it's and also they've also been indoctrinated in our schools into the idea that our legal system is so systematically unfair and that every person on trial is just the little person up against the man, when I think the man is Karen Reed.
Yep.
The resources for these defendants are given are vast. That's been my experience, my view.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Wow, we've been on here for almost 2 hours.
Does anyone have any other questions? Shoot.
I've been watching. I don't see anything.
How do you think the prosecution's case is going? Did we answer that?
Oh, I don't think so. I think they're doing great. I mean, I think I don't think Lally did a horrible job last time. I just think he didn't dumb it down as much as Hank is and make sure to connect each thing together and like make sure that it all lines up in the end. It was almost like Lally couldn't get from the beginning to the end and put it all into a presentation succinctly so that everybody could understand. And he didn't have the Hollywood style of being, I don't know, just the way Hank talks and presents himself is very, it's good for this case because you need something to match that defense attorney and the style they're going to bring, if that makes sense.
Well, I think he was
Like,
really up
Hank is
against
able
it. I mean,
to
let's
compare
not
to
forget.
them.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's also had the benefit of seeing how the first trial went, the way the witnesses testified, and which witnesses he's going to use and not use, and really pare down this case. He's certainly much more of a performer than Adam Lally. But let us not forget that Adam Lally was up against it. He asked for Karen Reed's statements made to Gretchen Voss, et cetera, and these news media outlets, 2020 Nightline. And Judge Cannoni, there's a great example. Judge Cannoni said, Karen Reed made all these statements freely, but they're not coming in. I mean, so I think what we're getting just to circle back to your question about these free Karen readers and why they're so upset with this judge is because the judge gave them almost everything they wanted last time. And now we didn't hear about Judge Cannoni being so corrupt and unfair last time. This time around, because we're in the second trial, she's being just a tiny bit more giving the Commonwealth a little bit more, a tiny bit more.
Right.
But she said it. She said that what's paramount to her is Karen Reed. Karen Reed's, I get that she has a right to a fair trial, but a fair trial, not a trial totally stacked in her favor. That, to me, that's not a fair trial. But I believe that's the way the judge sees it, that the trial must be totally stacked to the defense and should not be weighed out at all with the people's rights or the victim's rights. It's just her focus is entirely on Karen Reed and her feelings and her family's feelings. And you can see it in every move and every statement that she makes it's all about Karen Reed and her feelings. And I think she's a very weak, indecisive, I think her decisions are poorly thought out. I agree. I mean, that's where I agree with the Karen readers, but not for their reasons. I think she's a poor judge. I think we needed a much stronger, much fairer, more experienced. I know that Cannoni teaches law, not all the time, but as a special professor or whatever. But I mean, we needed a really, really strong, experienced judge on this case, and one that would have control over their courtroom. This courtroom is totally out of control. And for example, I mean, you have witnesses who, like the ARCA witnesses, like Daniel Wolf, come in and lie to the jury. I mean, they could have gotten Karen Reed off, and there would have been no repercussions for Karen Reed to get off fraudulently over perjured testimony for saying that ARCA wasn't paid. Luckily, the jury was pretty smart, and some of the people in the jury were smart enough to figure out that ARCA was being paid. And that's also a tribute to Adam Lally's excellent cross-examination of those ARCA witnesses. Let's not forget Adam Lally's.
That was his strong suit, was those crosses. He was good.
There was power in him. It's just not flashy. And I think we'd like to think, just like if you go to a concert and you hear a really up-tempo song and people all like rise to their feet and like, wah! And it was like a ballad. And, a ballad can be played perfectly and beautifully and no one's going to like run to their feet. So the flashiness, sometimes we are seduced by the razzle-dazzle of the performance in the courtroom. And there was real strength in both in his filings and in his cross-examinations. His openings and his closings, I thought, were weak. And I think maybe he would even agree with me. He was up against it.
He
was really up against it.
Didn't have as much help as he should have, I feel like. I feel like he was doing it all by himself. I could be wrong. I mean, I wasn't back there, but... With
Laura McLaughlin. And it seems like Hank Brennan these witnesses talk about his whole team there. So... it looks like Hank Brennan was given a lot more resources too. So let us not forget. I just want to give Adam Lally his due because I don't think he gets so maligned and people say, this is such a different trial. Well, there's a lot of advantages. He's brilliant, Hank Brennan, but he's got a lot of advantages too.
you can't compare them because it's just it's first of all, statistically, the retrial, it has a better chance of going through with a conviction, and that in itself, kind of changes things. And we have it's a different prosecutor. It's just things are different. It's almost, it's too hard to compare it. It's not just a trial happening twice. It's two totally different things, in my opinion. Jay Ray says that nothing was embedded and that they clarified that in the last trial. I didn't hear anybody clarifying anything. I read the court documents, and I'm almost positive it said they were embedded into his clothing.
Well, I mean, they cut his clothing. I mean, they removed his clothing off of him, and it still remained. So, I mean, you want to play with semantics with words, but
that's embedded.
His clothing was removed, and his taillight pieces were still found after it. So that's why I use the word embedded, because it remained in his clothing. So that's how I would use that. So if you want to use a different word, it would be hard to be sprinkled on the, I mean, if you want to say that they were sprinkled on the top after, I don't know when you're going to say that these taillight pieces were planted, when the car was on the way to the Sally Port and the CERT team had arrived. So there's no time, the timing does not work out to plant. There's no access to the taillight to plant them. The taillight pieces were found when the car was already, in the Sally Port. So
which Alan Jackson got, what's his name, Yuri, to admit yesterday that there was time, even though I don't think he even knew what he was. Okay, John's hair was not planted too. You guys, nobody planted anything. You got to get that out of your head. This is not like a 50+ person cover up. The more people you add into a conspiracy, that's more mouths that can't keep their mouths shut. Like, it doesn't work like it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. How do they explain her accelerating 24 miles an hour in reverse? They say that that's slow. They call that 5 miles an hour, and they call it too slow. You try going 5 miles, right. 23 point whatever. I'm up, I'm rounding up just a little bit just so I can speak. And I'm not speaking in 23 point, whatever, 23.4, 23.5, 20, whatever. You can see her accelerate in reverse.
Right.
And I think her foot was 74.5% on the gas pedal. Right. So, I mean, I'm making tiny adjustment, a tiny little, to just give you a picture where I can speak in normalcy. But yeah, I mean, you're practically flooring it on these new cars. This is not, I mean, the kind of cars I learned how to drive on was stick shift. I mean, these are, I don't think I've ever put my foot that far down on the gas pedal.
Right. Exactly. Murder by Maestro just made a great point. They say it wasn't fast, but then they say the injuries don't match up. Like, they want it both ways. They say, well, he doesn't look like he was hit by a car based on his injuries. Well, yeah, he doesn't have broken legs and broken hips and stuff because she wasn't going 50 miles per hour into him, I just think, I think it's really hard for people to visually see how this happened, how he was positioned when he was hit, how, just how it all went down. And last trial, I was confused by what whoever was on the stand was trying to say too. Was that the accident reconstructionist, or who was up there trying to say he was like spun around and did this weird...
Wasn't that Trooper Paul?
Yeah, I think it was the accident guy. And he was trying to like say that he like spun like a dreidel or something like that. And that's just, it's really hard to, in your mind, like can figure how that would happen. Like, I can't picture it. And I think, I mean, nobody was there to see it. So it's like, how do you even determine? I guess that's what the accident reconstructionist does. But I think that's almost a lot of, like, that's so much of the reason why people were confused, because they don't understand how it happened. They don't understand how he was hit and how the injuries came to be. That's what I think.
Oh, I just want to thank Kitty's 1993. I got your gift. Thank you so much. My cat slept on it last night. She sent me a bunch of kitty treats, and my girl cat slept on the. She loves catnip. Slept on the catnip toy last night. Loved it. Thank you. That was very sweet. Appreciate it, and thank you for the super sticker. I don't know if that's you who needs to thank Kitties. I don't know. It's confusing because we're simulcasting, but thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the gifts. They were really, really nice to get on the end of a long work week.
Bonnie asked, did the Reeds go into John's house before the cops? Technically, I think so, yeah. Because Karen and her dad showed up that morning, a few hours later, and they went upstairs to get Karen's things out of John's room. That's when I personally think the ring video footage was deleted.
I have more on that ring video. So I didn't really, I knew this, but I didn't verbalize it, that you can, so on the ring video, I may go over this tonight, you can assign users to, approved users to your ring camera. And Karen Reed had taken care of the children before. I would have thought that she might have been, maybe we're going to have someone from Ring testify, be an approved user on John O'Keefe's ring camera. So that she could get into the app and control it. When she deleted it and how, I don't know if we're going to hear more on that.
Mm-hmm.
What I doubt they have, which would be great to have, is the deleted footage. I don't think we're ever going to see that, but we may see. This is just, take this with a grain of salt. This is just my speculation. We may see some kind of testimony about a deletion being made, or Karen Reed's access to his, or where a deletion was made, or Karen Reed's access to as an approved user on his ring camera. So the kids, I believe the kids testified before that they didn't know whether she was I think they said one filing that she might have had access to it, but they didn't know. So.
Sure will be interesting. We have a lot of good stuff to look forward to in this trial, I think. I'm excited to hear, I'm excited for Hank to get up there and cross-examine the defense witnesses. I think that's one of that'll be gold for sure. I can't wait for him to ruin Russell, whatever her name is. I don't even remember what her name is. Marie Russell.
He already did. I mean, I couldn't believe she was allowed to testify after that. But
I'm here for the encore,
It's basically like, Alessi, I believe Alessi wrote these reports for Russell and it's my belief, for Russell and for Richard Green. Russell didn't write a report last time, but her testimony has changed drastically and sounds just like Robert Alessi. And I thought he did a great job of demolishing her. I'm not sure they're going to put Richard Green. And I heard that Karen Reed gave an interview. Someone sent it to me. Thank you for sending it to me. After court, she was saying they're not sure whether they're going to put Proctor up on the stand. I was shocked. I was shocked. I mean, this is all Proctor, and they're not going to take Proctor as their own witness? Really?
That's
weird. That's all they have is this Proctor stuff. I mean, they're just going to make him a shadowy boogeyman. I mean, maybe they think he's more useful as a shadowy boogeyman, and then the jury sees him, and I think he testifies pretty well for the most part, honestly. But you can be offended by his mean texts, but that's the way people are. They talk crap.
And
people
I
talk
think
crap, and especially when right.
The jury might question, why do they even have his personal text messages anyway? Like, and that opens a door to that whole federal investigation that they said they didn't want to get into, right? Doesn't it? Isn't that where they got the text messages from that investigation?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. Pretty crazy.
There's thank you, Sarah D, for the super sticker. I thought so. Someone asked me about, this is another budding innocence fraud campaign that started free trial for Richard Allen. Someone was asking me about Richard Allen. And
yeah, he's guilty too.
His murder of Abby and Libby.
He confessed 61 times. He wanted to confess. He begged to confess, but his family and his lawyers were like, don't, stop. I mean, in those videos that just came out of him, his interrogation videos, and then his
I haven't even seen those yet. Oh wow.
Yeah, they're great. I forget who I watched them on, but they had put the interrogation video down, and then right after were his phone calls. So it was him sitting there for an hour and a half saying, it wasn't me, wasn't me, wasn't me. Oh yeah, that's me on the bridge. I wore that exact clothes that the killer wore. I was there. That is my black car there and everything. But nope, that wasn't me who killed him. And then it would transition right over to his phone call where his wife or mom would answer, and he'd be like, hello? And he'd be like, I did it. I killed him. And it was like, he did that 61 different times to anybody he could tell, and if you really, for people who might still think that he's innocent and can't understand that, it has a lot to do with the particular mental illness that he has. And over on Hidden True Crime, Dr. John, he's a forensic psychologist, and he does a really great episode on talking about why it was so important for Richard Allen to confess, for him to get it out, and he needed like validation that even though he was going to confess to something, he wanted to confess to something, he wanted to be sure that those people who have always loved him were still going to be there and still love him even after he confesses to something he knows is awful. And Dr. John just did a really good job on that video. He really cleared things up for me.
Well,
Dr. John is not a fraud, Jill. Sorry, but he's not. He is not a fraud.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jill. I'm like, all these YouTube personalities. If it helps you, or you agree, or I don't
know why he's a fraud. Why would he be a fraud? This is what he does for work. Like, he is a forensic psychologist. He's not on YouTube every night or anything. He just comes on when his wife has questions about crimes, and
take it with a grain of salt. I would just take these experts with a grain of salt. These experts and these appeals of authority in true crime with a grain of salt. Because I've just been so, fooled by them. But if it's helpful to you to see it in a certain way, or
I don't
one
know,
episode's helpful, I see it. Just to get you thinking about something. But
his website, and he has the degrees, and I know he does.
I know, but these degrees also, I feel. Let's. we don't
have to agree on that. I just think he's legit. He knows what he's talking about, in my opinion.
Helpful to you. I think killers confess for all sorts of reasons. A lot of times it's about power and control.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes
no, I know.
Victimizing people. Certainly, he had a need. He certainly willfully confessed multiple times, and I love when they. the new thing is to say that all these people have PTSD, sometimes from prison, especially when people
that's
that they
not
get
what.
out reoffend, or they pathologize them in ways and humanize them in certain ways that,
Okay. I just want to correct Jill real quick. He didn't make a diagnosis. He doesn't do that. He makes that very clear that he does not make diagnosis without speaking to someone. But what he did is he explained the diagnosis that Richard Allen has already been diagnosed with, not by him, So basically what he did is he took this situation and just said, this is how, and I'm not trying to like simp for him or their channel or anything like that. I just think in this particular instance, he was able to describe this mental illness that he's previously been diagnosed with years and years back, and explain the diagnosis to why someone might want to confess based on this diagnosis. That's all I'm saying.
Can I clarify my position on these experts? Can I just clarify? It's not just on YouTube, but can we remember Morgan Geyser, the Slender Man, the child killer, along with Anissa Weier, she actually didn't kill. She tried to kill. She attempted murderer, let's put it that way, of Peyton Lautner. And when she got in there, they diagnosed her as schizophrenic for years. And those were experts, people with degrees. And then she was like, yeah, just kidding. I was malingering in there. She's not taking any medication now.
Yeah,
and
that's very common.
I mean, they can be fooled. They can be wrong. I just, I'm just trying to get a more skeptical attitude towards. I'm not saying that you can't appreciate someone's opinion on true crime or, on the internet, but just have a more skeptical view of these experts and not let that be our only view.
No.
Just because,
and
right.
That's why I don't really get into this stuff usually, because I don't want somebody to think that just because I agree with like a part of a video that somebody said, I'm not hanging my hat on everything they've said, I just felt it be helpful of him saying, this is how somebody with this diagnosis may act after committing a crime. It wasn't even, it was just about this.
You got to invite Jill on. I would love to hear a discussion between you and Jill about this. I think it would be fascinating and super, not to get defensive, just to say what you found helpful, and Jill's giving her opinion. I think that would be the best show ever. I would tune in for that, to hear two different, views on the same,
I'm
episode.
down for that. I'm
awesome.
So down for that.
That would be awesome to hear. Just even to have more discussion. I feel like, even that we're having a discussion, I think that these experts, these lawyers get on, they're like, well, they're a lawyer, they're an expert. There should be no discussion, no skepticism.
No, and that's not how I want to come across.
Yeah, there's a real.
Yeah, no, that's not how I want to come across, and that's why a lot of times I won't plug somebody's channel or do something like that, because I don't agree with everything that comes out of their mouths. I've agreed and that's the thing, I don't watch their channel all the time, but I guess when somebody, I'm trying to think of a way to. No, I understand the concept, Kara. Like, I get not being skeptical of everybody. Like, okay, maybe he's not an expert. We can go there. We can say maybe he is. I don't really care either way. I'm just saying that this one teeny tiny part of him explaining the way somebody acts with a certain diagnosis, and we don't even have to relate it to Richard Allen, you know. And I also, like, he explained it in a way for me to then be able to go do more research and corroborate the things he's said, if that makes sense. Okay, we'll move on. Let me reflect. We'll move on.
Thank you. Let me reflect. Yeah, anybody have any thoughts?
It's not a big
And
deal.
want to talk
Not a big
Karen
deal.
Reed? No, I think it's all.
And I don't just watch something and say he's right. That is my
Well, it's not
thing.
personal
I
to
agree.
you. You know, it's not. Nobody's attacking you. It's just.
I disagree with that. But,
I know it can be.
Yeah,
I
no,
know
it was
can feel
just
very
he
personal when
made me
people
think in a
disagree.
different way, and I like to get other people's opinions on things. That's it, really. And it just helps. It helps to get different opinions on things, and if I think it might be a good idea or sounds it could be true, I then go into further research about it. I don't just take one thing as fact and go with it. Yeah, I corroborate the
Que
research
sera,
I do.
sera. Let's answer
But,
this question. Kat, throw up que sera, sera with the 3 question marks on the thing. I'd love to answer that. Thank you.
Hank Brennan was not
I'll read
criticized
it.
for mentioning corruption in his opening
Was criticized for
statement.
not mentioning corruption.
I think he's proving.
Okay, so let's talk about corruption. What that means. What does corruption mean? Does corruption mean what are you considering corruption? I see the corruption as this innocence fraud campaign, the witness harassment campaign. The testimony from the witnesses has been, I'm thinking of Michael Camerano. Is that right? Michael Camerano? His testimony, we heard about the plumber. We never heard about that before. You could just see him sitting on it, wanting to say, they say, oh, they were getting along that night. Everything was great. Well, John was upset because Karen Reed, so just to explain what this is about, Karen Reed had said that she couldn't come out because she had a plumber over at her home she was waiting for the plumber at 7:15 to 7:30 around that time at night. She couldn't come out to the bar and meet them because she was waiting for Richie, the plumber, to come fix her hot water issues. And that he said he had a rusty pipe and he was going to go to Home Depot and be back tomorrow, meaning after the 7th worst storm in Massachusetts history. He was going to come back in. He was going to plow himself out and come back to fix her hot water issues in her home in Mansfield. So when she got to the bar, the first thing you would think John O'Keefe would have asked is, how'd you get on with your plumber? And you would think that that might have been one of the things that they were fighting about that night. And he told Michael Camerano that he was upset that Karen Reed didn't ask him, because John was a plumber and his dad's a plumber, to fix her hot water issues. So my feeling about that, why it's significant, is it shows, to me, I don't believe Richie the plumber existed. I don't believe she had a hot water issue. We've never heard about her fixing this hot water issue in her time after John O'Keefe's murder. There's never been any proof of these text messages to Richie the plumber or calls to Richie the plumber, that she knew that would rile up John O'Keefe. And it did, as a way to exercise control over him. So this time around, Michael Camerano, last time he said, oh, they were getting along great. This time around, he said, no, they weren't getting along great. And his testimony was read at the grand jury that John told him that he was upset that Karen Reed didn't ask him to fix her hot water and instead hired a plumber. And he was angry about that night. And that came out this trial. So that's one of the things an innocence fraud campaign will do. It will scare people into silence. All we heard about first trial was how great Karen Reed was and how there was no issues, and that we had Karina Kalakithis saying that they were lovey-dovey, strangely the same phrase that's used in John O'Keefe's text messages that day, the day of his murder, to Karen Reed, that he's not so quick to be lovey-dovey as Karen after an argument. So was Karina, who kept her, befriended and kept her friendship with Karen Reed after John O'Keefe's murder, was she shown those text messages? And why did her testimony at trial echo so much John O'Keefe's odd phrase, lovey-dovey? All we heard about is how great they were getting along, how they seemed to be so happy together. This time round, now that there's been a little bit of a dent in this, it's been, the innocence fraud campaign is not at, 11, that we were getting some more critical testimony of a more damaging testimony to Karen Reed. So that, I think, is one of the issues of corruption, is it changes, it intimidates people into silence. But actual corruption in this case proved to me there has been corruption besides mean texts. I mean, Proctor was fired for driving drunk and being unprofessional because of his mean texts about Karen Reed, who had just murdered a fellow police officer.
Yeah.
So he was
like he had
understandably
no right to be
upset.
mad.
So I haven't seen actual corruption. Strangely, what I'm more interested that didn't come out in his opening statement, and I thought was coming into this trial, but maybe only if the defense opens the door, is Karen Reed's witness harassment campaign. And so that it shows consciousness of guilt. Now he has played the clip. Jen McCabe, it's either me or you. Either you're going down or I am.
That was so good.
I mean, to me, that shows that she started this innocence fraud campaign as a way of someone's going to take responsibility for her behavior, and it's not going to be her.
Yeah.
She'd rather have innocent people go down, which is the irony of this innocence fraud campaign that's supposed to be such a quest for justice. They're trying to frame innocent people for Karen Reed's murder. What a way to obtain justice. I mean, they're taking part in a huge injustice, and that is the name of the game in every innocence fraud campaign. The people that join in on it think that some of the duped people think that they are fighting for justice when they're taking part in a huge injustice. And they're re-victimizing the victim's family, and they're often creating a unique injustice of their own.
Yeah. When it comes to corruption, I think Gill just said it best a few minutes ago. AJ and Arca are the corruption.
And Yannetti. Don't leave out Yannetti.
Yeah.
He's quieter.
That was just
He's
her
not
comment.
quite
I was
so
just reading
openly.
her comment.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah,
them as a team are the corruption here.
And Alessi and Elizabeth Little, they're all
right. The defense team.
all
Yep.
part of this. Part of making all these, especially Alan Jackson made so many extrajudicial statements outside of court against, his profession's rules. I mean, that's not advocating for your client. That's going far beyond that, and accusing people of murder, bringing up names with no evidence. I mean, that would be one of the things I would highlight.
Yeah, it's just wild.
Yeah, I mean, how do you guys feel it's going? I'm curious what the audience thinks. Do you think there's going to be a conviction this time around? I know a lot of people on our side is going, "Oh, this is a piece of cake. She's going to be convicted. She's going to jail." But I heard all this last time, and I wasn't convinced. So convinced last time. I had the same attitude I have this time round.
Yeah, I kind of feel relatively the same. I think they're doing better this time, but they could put on the best case in the whole damn world. But if we have someone on that jury who doesn't care, then none of this even matters.
Right.
Right. If there's somebody on here who wants her to not be convicted, by all means, she won't be convicted. And that's how it'll go.
Have you ever talked to a free Karen Reader? I mean, it's like, I call it the why come. Why come? Why come? The experts, they'll go still just call them experts, ARCA. You mean the hired guns for the defense said that he couldn't be hit by a car? John wasn't hit by a car. The experts say he wasn't hit by a car. You mean the hired guns for the defense who were
Right.
talking on the Signal app, an encrypted app, and crafting their testimony, writing it with the defense? Amazingly. I think that the real mystery in this case and the real corruption, let's not forget the federal investigation. There's the real corruption. So he can't mention the federal investigation. There's another element. And that seems to me totally like, I don't think you can take the defense, see the defense and the federal investigation as separate. They're so, their relationship is so symbiotic at minimum.
Hank
One
really
and the
gave us
same
that good word.
yeah, I've been
Really
using
good.
it. Yeah, I've been running with it because it's right. It works. It's right. Yeah, I mean, Dr. Marie Russell. I don't even know. I'm not sure that that's a real story. How Marie Russell got involved in this case. I She could have gone right to the defense. I don't know. She could have. Certainly, enough people are going right to the defense and volunteering. They're using a lot of people like Microdots was in the war room. It was just a Richie Keough. Just people, they have so many eyes and ears. And that's why I always say, if you have ideas for Hank Brennan, write them, write them, let them know. I mean, the defense has a whole army of people giving them ideas and tips and things that they are using in court.
It blows my mind. It really does.
No way will she be acquitted. Yeah, it's looking less likely. Like she may be convicted of a minor thing. She may be convicted of everything, or we may get another hung jury. But acquittal seems like my money would be, but who knows? That seems to me to be the least likely option. That
I just don't want to get
12
my
people
hopes
are all
up.
going to agree for right. But it's absolutely possible. But my view
Absolutely.
right now, we're still in the Commonwealth's case. So obviously, it's their case. The defense has only gotten to argue their case in cross-examination. So, it's early days, but to my view, that seems least likely. I think it's much more likely we're going into another hung jury, and who knows what's going to happen. Are they going to are they going to justify trying Karen Reed a third time? I know they've told the Paul O'Keefe that they'll try her as many times as they have to. Is that true?
No. Realistically, no, because I mean, that might just be something you say to the victim's family and hope by all God that you get your conviction, because realistically, no, they're not going to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars just, over and over again to try her. It doesn't realistically work out that way. But exactly, kiddies, we just hope it's not necessary. Like, I think that might have been what they were riding on. I think they were just, if they even said that to him. Did Paul say that himself?
Yes, he said it in an interview
okay,
that they told him that they would try him as many times as they need to. But I know we're getting near the end here, but does anyone have does anybody have anything else that they want to ask before we go? Russell's a big time fraud. Yeah, big time. And a dark personality. Really, I'm so glad. I mean, that scares me. It's like almost like Annie Wilks or something. Can you imagine being injured in the ER and she's your doctor? What a person, totally lacking empathy and humility to treat you. Oh, it's like a nightmare.
Definitely. All right. Wow, we've been going for a long time. This was fun. I'm so glad we got to talk. We will have to do this again sometime.
Me too. This has been fun. Yeah, this has been fun. I think we've done it, unless anyone else has anything else that they want to ask. Yeah, the defense hasn't even begun.
They're gonna try her again. There's too much at stake. Maybe, Tigray. We can only hope. We just get a damn conviction this time.
You know what was so impressive was Hank Brennan when he he was asking Buchanan to read those text messages of Proctor's out loud, and Buchanan was saying, turned to him in trial in front of the jury and saying, look, he says, can you identify the speaker? And he goes, the speaker's names aren't on this. And Hank Brennan just finessed the living heck out of that. He was like, well, if you know, and that's what I meant. It seems so obvious to me it was an error that the names weren't identified on the document. And he dealt with it so well on his feet.
Yes.
I was so impressed by that.
Yes, yep.
KR sounded very manipulative. KR sounded very, very manipulative and troublemaking in the Higgins text. Do you think they were damaging her? Yes. I hear more and more people say,
I think
why did the defense...
I don't even know why they did that. They're sinking her. Her own defense team is really making her look bad.
I mean, and I don't understand. So when Buchanan was reading those text messages, apparently this was the second day in a row I heard she gave the finger in the same way, scratching her inner corner of her eye or her side of her nose up to, however you want to say it, with her middle finger. I heard this is the second day in a row she did this. I would think it was on Court TV. They did a whole segment on it. I would think it would have gotten to the judge, but who knows? I would think that she would have. It was her defense team. She says she's involved in every aspect of her defense. To me, it seems clear that she's leading her defense.
Yep.
That she knew that those text messages were coming in. She knew that they were going to be read. So it wasn't the reading out loud of those text messages that she cared. She said she didn't. She said that was the most humiliating thing in the trial to the ID discovery crew. She wasn't embarrassed about murdering all the evidence that shows that she murdered John O'Keefe. It was her text messages between Higgins that she found like going through some kind of stomach operation, she said, with no anesthesia. I can't remember exact words she used.
So dramatic. I don't think she can even
kind of
feel
procedure with no anesthesia. Right. I thought that was put on too. And then, but if that embarrassed her, but she knew it was coming. So I just think that she's so angry, and this is what it's not. Her innocence fraud campaign is also a revenge campaign to teach all the people who thought they could outsmart her. You think they could outsmart Karen Reed? All the people with knowledge of her guilt and punish them and make them villains. So it wasn't good enough just to start this campaign to help her evade responsibility. The point was to punish these people, make their lives miserable, make them public villains, make them laughing stocks, totally remove whatever feelings of safety and privacy that they have, and exercise her power. I hope that Hank Brennan brings it in, because to me it shows that.
Oh, me too.
That was the first clue for me, that if she was okay, like we didn't know at the time when I first started covering this, though we suspected that Karen Reed might be behind this witness harassment campaign. We didn't know for sure that she was. We could only suspect, but now that we know that she is, or what is behind this campaign, the first thing that made me think that she was guilty, one of many things, this is not the only thing that made me think she's guilty, is the fact that she never publicly told people to stop harassing witnesses. I mean, why would someone who was falsely accused of murder want other people accused of murder with very little evidence, i.e. no evidence, not even very little, no, excuse me. Let me restate that. No evidence whatsoever. Why would she want that? You would only want that if you were trying to avert attention away from all the evidence against yourself and all your contradicting and self-incriminating statements.
Yeah, I sure as hell wouldn't want to be friends with her, that's for sure. I mean, imagine just the type of person she is in her everyday life. If she pulls all of this off, I mean, ew. She's gross. I don't know. She's
What
just,
the fact that she hates children and doesn't want to get married and is just so involved in alcohol and
she's
just
so
is
self-absorbed.
self-absorbed, cruel, self-absorbed, totally lack of empathy. I mean, it's just, you could go through the psychopath checklist with her. Just the character, the interviews just speak to her character so much, and her lying. I love how the free Karen readers say that everyone else is lying, but they never talk about Karen Reed's lies. Never. If there's any kind of minute discrepancy in your testimony. And what the funny thing is, if the witnesses' testimonies were exactly the same, identical to last time, identical word for
They'd
word,
be scripted.
they'd say they were scripted, and they would be talking about so I just can't believe they don't talk about Karen. I mean, it's right in their face. I mean, it's right in their face, and what they're choosing to ignore is just so huge.
Yeah, she does have a lack of personality. Let me reflect. That's a good point. She does have it. It's almost like she tries to have a fun personality. Like, she tries to have a personality, period. And she puts it out there like how she thinks she expects other people to act to have a good personality. But it just isn't there. She can't make that happen. Yeah, anger rules her.
Anger, power and control is everything she does.
Yep.
Is pretty much about power and control. And just that, I would be so shocked, but I was shocked that we got a hung jury last time. So, but I would be so shocked if she's not convicted, at least on the drunk driving charge. I mean, that I don't know what you have to do to get convicted in Massachusetts if she doesn't get convicted of the drunk driving charge. She's admitted, essentially, she was driving drunk. We have her blood alcohol level after the fact. That she's still drunk the morning after. I don't know what else you have to do. And every text message to Higgins is about alcohol.
Yeah,
and we see
single
that there's a tape. She's doing it on tape. You can see her drinking on tape. Yeah. That's also something the free Karen readers don't like to talk about. Is her? I mean, or do they all think she's not guilty of drunk driving? I mean, at minimum, do they admit she was driving drunk? That she should be convicted at least of operating a vehicle, or should Proctor be the only one who should be convicted? Be punished for that, for operating a vehicle while drinking. I mean, she was so beyond the limit. I can't say she was so drunk, but she was so beyond the limit. Obviously has a high tolerance. Or do they think her high tolerance lets her drive a vehicle safely at that level? At 0.3 or whatever she was at?
Ooh. I mean, that's how you know. I mean, that tells you so much about the type of people who are behind her if they can't even admit to the fact that she was drinking and driving. That's, I don't know. That's some type of mental issue. If you can't, it's not even about themselves, and they can't even admit one mistake that this random ass woman made. I don't know. It's so weird to me. It's just weird. It is like a cult, Jill. It is.
You had 2 more questions, Tammy. I submitted before someone unlinked the thread. Oh no. Damn wasted. Sorry, Tammy. KR on the courthouse steps this week says that she saw John. Oh, I saw that. I was going to play that tonight. I don't know if I'm going to do a show tonight. I might take off, but said she saw John go in the house. I was thinking this. I was wondering the same thing. Que sera. Wondered if Hank Brennan. I would think that isn't the time for evidence over? I don't know. I would have to ask a lawyer if they're still making statements after court, if they can bring that in. I think it would be effective if he's gonna play a trifecta of I saw him walk in the front door, I saw him walk in the side door. I looked down at my phone and I didn't see whether he walked into the house, and add that to it. Oh yes, I saw. You can see she's lying. She always has this look on her face. She smiles when she lies. She has Jupiter's delight every time. So,
Crazy woman. Oh man.
What do you think? Do you think Hank can bring that in, Kat?
I don't see why not. I'm just wondering, do you think he is watching these moments, like during this trial, you know? Like, do you think he's going home at night? And I'm always so curious about that. Like, I wonder if he's going home at night and checking like court TV and long crime and just checking to see, okay, did she do any, what did she say today after trial? Because otherwise he's not going to know what's there, right? But I don't see him not being able to bring it in.
Well, I was just the discovery is over, so I just don't know what.
Right, but it just
I'd have
happened.
to ask a lawyer what happens if there's evidence created during the trial. Are you
then it can come in.
out of luck, or can it come in? Or,
If it
and what
just
circumstances
happens,
can it come in?
If it's something that just happens, or they just get a hold of it, then they have an exception to the discovery date.
So you say the Brandon Bernard, this last one. Oh, sorry, Kat. I feel like I'm holding your. I know we've been going for so long. Sorry, I just start talking and I go. Roberta, I'm not as clued in on this case as I am on the Adelsons. Why is this case so strange? Well, because there's been a massive innocence fraud campaign and witness harassment campaign put on by Karen Reed, and her lawyers have put it on in an effort to get her off, and in an effort to punish all the people who got her. Karen Reed's whole team, they are unbelievable. Karen Reed's whole team sounds so unbelievable, but the Commonwealth is so untrustworthy. Well, there's lots of evidence that's separate from, I think you're thinking about Proctor and his mean texts. I mean, there's lots of evidence from his cell phone that he never moved. His temperature, the cell phone temperature dropped.
Kyle, no, he can't bring it in as impeachment because unless Karen Reed gets on the stand. Sorry, Roberta.
Right, there's lots of evidence in this case that can be looked at separate than that. All evidence points to Karen Reed and no one else in this case, and that's the challenge for the defense. There's a lot of theories, like what if theories, but there's no evidence that anyone else did this. And then there's Karen Reed's own incriminating statements that she made on, if you can watch the clips of her in trial, that she makes saying, I said I hit him, and self-incriminating and contradictory statements. So you don't have to believe the Commonwealth. You can just believe, you can just examine Karen Reed's own statements, how much they change and contradict and incriminate herself.
About this case, she's actually talking a lot of times. Well, I mean, if the criminals are really dumb, they like to talk. But some of the smarter ones, they clam up and they don't say a dang word. But this one, it's so easy to like analyze her statements and what she's trying to say because she talks constantly. And I'm here for it. That's fine with me.
Right. They'll say whatever lie is easiest at the time. You know, you see this with a lot of people on trial for murder and convicted of murder. They'll say the easiest lie at the time that will get them out of hot water at the time, or think that will get them out of hot water at the time. They'll change their stories. And they also like to mix it up and confuse things. And, I mean, I just think, I hope someone on the jury is asking themselves why Karen Reed involved Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts that day. There was no need to involve them. Why didn't Karen Reed call 911? Why is Jen McCabe calling 911 and not and not
Right.
Karen
Like,
Reed.
we know
Why
the
did she have to
answers to
involve those
those.
people that morning? Right. I hope
We know
someone
the
on the
answer to
jury
those
is thinking
questions,
about that.
but it's something for the jury to think about for sure. Because if they can answer that question by the end of this case being over, well, that tells you who's guilty,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Seems like everyone, certainly they're pushing this idea that everyone's lying. Like the one thing they say is they say Carrie Roberts is lying and she perjured herself. But the 227 Times search of how long to die in the cold was not a thing until May of 2023. So there would be no reason she would testify about Jen McCabe, hearing from Jen McCabe about Karen Reed asked her to Google how long to die in the cold until it was an actual thing brought up by Karen Reed's innocence fraud campaign. So there's a reason she didn't tell the. So sometimes there's a lot more context and reasons, and certainly the media and the YouTubers are really pushing where the side that where the clicks, the view, and the money is, and also ideologically where they're aligned is in the Free Karen Reed side. So you won't often hear the counter arguments to their arguments about lying witnesses or what they're putting out as lying or perjured witnesses or minute changes in testimony. If they were all, if they were all too consistent, they would all the Free Karen readers would be saying is that they got their stories straight and they're going by a script. So you really can't win. Free Karen Reed will go at the minutiae any which way they can. Look at Karen Reed's. No one's lying like Karen Reed. I'll tell you that in the state. And let's say this is my last point. Sorry, Kat. Last point.
You're okay.
Let's just say for argument's sake that Jen McCabe or Carrie Roberts or some witness in this case are lying on the stand, because people do lie. They lie for all sorts of different reasons. Is the reason they're lying on the stand to cover up a murder? And what evidence is there that they are covering up a murder or were involved in a murder? People can lie for privacy reasons, for strange, odd reasons that you couldn't even think of, for private reasons. About minute, small things. So, yeah, I don't think any of even if we were going to say for argument's sake that the witnesses lied in this case, some of the Commonwealth witnesses, which I don't happen to think is true about anything significant, certainly not. You'd have to ask yourself if it was connected to covering up some kind of crime. This murder of John O'Keefe. And I don't think there's any evidence of that.
I don't either. Oh, man. Okay. I definitely have to go let the dog out. She is
I'm sorry I've kept you so long.
No, you're fine.
Thanks. This has been fun.
Totally fine. No worries. This was a great time. I'm so glad we got to talk.
Thanks everybody for showing up. I think I didn't realize how late it was. I don't think I can pull. Maybe I'll try to pull a show together. But I'll definitely be on tomorrow night at 6. Look for the show tonight at 6. If I'm not there, I'm not there. But tomorrow I'll definitely be on at 6. So I'll see you guys then, for sure.
And
not sooner. Thank you, Kat. This has been a real pleasure. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Yes, thank you. On either Sunday or Monday on my channel, I'm going to be covering the Madalena Kojikari case. She went missing in a few years ago in North Carolina. So if you want to be there, you can. Either or, doesn't matter. But it'll be there. So I hope everybody has a great night. Have a great night, Roberta. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Kat.
Good night.